Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Want to know what Joseph Campbell and Tony Walker have in common? Well, stay tuned to find out.
Welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement with best-selling author and fiduciary Tony Walker.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it, get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it. And it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.
Shortly after the tragic events of 9/11, I began working on my first book, later to be published in 2006, called Perfecting Your Walk in Retirement. Now, the vision for this book was dedicated to savers, those hard-working Americans who just want to work hard, provide for their families, and enter into the second half of life, as I like to call it, with enough money to live comfortably. Now, during the time of my journey to write a book that would deal with the catastrophic events of 9/11 and the subsequent stock market crash that followed, my clients and I had to get together and I had to research things that could help my clients better understand the trials, tribulations, and of course the attributes of savers. One book that was extremely helpful was Joseph Campbell's groundbreaking publication, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And while this book didn't actually deal with the hearts and minds of savers, today I will. In fact, I call this show The Hero of the Saver's Journey. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, slightly aging and slightly gaining a few extra pounds as we speak. Hero spotting specialist and fiduciary Tony Walker. And on today's show, I'm going to feature the plight of savers and their money, and more importantly, the attributes of savers. And of course, we're going to share with you an actual example of a saver's journey, a look at a 73-year-old widow and what she is now doing with her money, something in my book I refer to as a financial hero. But first, let me introduce my hero and partner in crime of the Worry-Free Retirement, none other than America's favorite financial sidekick, and we have, along with my favorite sidekick, my up-and-coming second favorite sidekick, technical assistant, Mr. Derek Hudson, who is mic'd up. So first of all, Aaron, welcome to the show, and how are you doing this afternoon?
Hey, good afternoon, sir. I'm good, and yourself?
Good, good, and I'm looking forward to having Derek mic'd up. How are you over there, Derek?
Doing great. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
And this is your first time mic'd up, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
This is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, working at the drive-thru at a fast food restaurant last week. Now you're mic'd up.
Living on the streets. And
here you go. I've told you if you'll just hang in there with me. It gets even better, Derek. Hang in there. But actually, folks, the reason I wanted Derek to kind of sit in on this show, because, you know, in fact, where's my little plaque, Derek? Wait a minute, I'll grab it.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I keep this in our Bowling Green office, and I know, Aaron, you've seen this, but literally this plaque, and remember, folks, I wrote a book called Perfecting Your Walk. Now it's the Worry-Free Retirement, but the plaque that I love says, "The joy is in the journey." And I think what we have discovered, and I know, Derek, you can share your thoughts on this, but I think one of the interesting things about life, it sometimes is the journey. I know you're a lot younger than me, but I share with what you were saying and why you wanted to help with this particular script and the monologue and the idea of the hero's journey and how that relates to our saver clients.
Yeah, so I'm very passionate about storytelling, and this is a concept that I really liked for a while. Just the hero's journey. It's kind of the structure that a lot of stories and myths and religions follow. There's just kind of like this. There's 12 steps, so they look at it like a clock. So it kind of loops, and because typically once you go through a journey, you start another one. And this can be in real life or it can be in storytelling, but it's typically, it's just a way to look at, what to expect in life and how things work out. Because typically at 6 o'clock, kind of halfway point, you go through something pretty difficult. And, that's the point where people really have to make a choice of, am I going to be hopeless and just kind of like accept the situation that I'm in? Or am I going to continue on and sacrifice something so that this can be a happy ending?
That's cool. Yeah, and speaking of looking at clocks and punching the clocks, that's an old adage. I don't think Aaron, do you think they still use time clocks like they used to? But that's what
Probably not like they used to. There's probably still some like body shops out there that have time clocks,
But that was the old saying, when my granddad went to work with Bell South, you punch the clock. And I think that's our point, folks. This journey that many of you on, some of you are still on a different journey if you're in the second half of life, but that's the whole point. You're on a journey. You've been working hard. You've been punching a clock, so to speak. And what I see in my practice, and I've been doing this over 36 years, is I think the financial heroes are those who have really just kind of forgotten that they've provided so much for so many people in that journey. And then they get to this thing called retirement. And for some people, that's the destination. Aaron, you following this?
Yep.
So that's the destination. I'm a retirement planning specialist. That's why people come to me. I just had a couple leave the office a few minutes ago, Derek. I'm seeing clients as we speak, folks. This is my full-time gig is not a radio show host. I'm really seeing clients and finding out what they're looking at. And it's the same thing. This gentleman's like, I don't want to go back to work, but we're not making a lot of money, Tony. So he's got to figure out how to take this 401k plan that he knows nothing about. This is what's interesting, folks. This may be you as you're riding down the road. You've been saving hard, working hard, but the journey is getting ready to take a turn. What was it, Yogi Berra that said if you come to a fork in the road, take it, But you're having to make a decision and you have no clue what to do. So in that journey, maybe that's the 6 o'clock, but what were you saying about that innermost cave and that decision? Give us an example of where that happens throughout the journey.
Yeah, so the innermost cave is pretty much the darkest part of the story. It's and a lot of people will find that
Give me an example, like you were saying about like Luke Skywalker, right?
Yeah, so like in Star Wars, there's a scene where Luke I think he enters a tree that like he's training with Master Yoda, and he enters into this tree, and Darth Vader he shows up in the tree as a vision. So Luke fights him because he knows that this fight is coming up that he's training for, and he beats him, but it ends up being that Luke's head was in the suit. And at the time he didn't understand that, but that's because it turns out, as I hope I'm not spoiling this for anyone, that Darth Vader is his father, and that's kind of the inner struggle. I'm sorry, Aaron. Yeah.
Aaron's like
about 30 years too late.
Thanks a lot, Derek.
Yeah, but yeah, so kind of the inner struggle is realizing that he has a connection with this person that he sees as evil, and that's the foreshadowing of that.
Okay, gotcha. So with back to retirement planning, I think that's what I'm seeing sometimes. This innermost cave or this struggle is really, and a lot of our clients, you've met some of our clients, especially you, Aaron, you've met a lot of our clients at client events. I mean, some of these people, not that everybody's not hard workers, but they've worked really, really hard during their lives. And some of them have had difficult jobs, manual labor, assembly plants, things like that. It's hard work. And they look forward to retirement, and then all of a sudden they retire. And I had another gentleman in today. I'll give you an example. He's 72. He lost his wife last year. We're in the middle of this COVID thing as we record this show on December 8th, 2020. And he's like, I don't really have much to do. I'm going to the doctor all the time. So this retirement thing maybe wasn't quite as rosy as he thought. And he's kind of going back in time and thinking about the way things used to be. So, we talked about really what is my role here as we talk about this whole story thing. My role, I think, is really a guide. And as you and I and Aaron have been talking about all the heroes that we've kind of watched flesh out, most of these heroes have some sort of mentor or a guide, don't they? At some point, or they encounter them.
Yeah, that's fairly about a quarter in, so maybe like 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Typically, the hero needs somebody to show them the way, or give them an item that will help them. And it's always the hero's job to complete the journey. It's going to ultimately come down to them, but the mentor is an essential part of equipping them to handle what's coming.
So key words were shared, and we'll be right back, folks. So I'm going to show you what the saver's journey looks like, what happens when a saver gets to retirement or just retires, and how we at Tony Walker Financial can equip that saver to worry less about money. We're uniquely positioned, I feel, more than any other advisor, or shall we say, guide out there, because of our experience in working with so many savers. So if that's you, if you're sitting there and you're retired recently, thinking about retirement, If this whole thing seems a little scary, if you're worried about leaving a paycheck and trying to figure out how you're going to live comfortably, you want to stay tuned next for this subject. We're going to talk about the hero's journey from a financial perspective and what the saver needs to know when they get into retirement. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Warning. A licensed insurance agent with no prior knowledge of annuities can legally toss your 401k into an annuity. Don't make that mistake. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com before ever purchasing an annuity.
The stock market at my age? You gotta be kidding. I need to put my money someplace where it's safe.
Investing all of your money in the stock market can be pretty scary stuff, which is why I created the worry-free split IRA concept. A concept that allows you to invest in the stock market without the fear of running out of money. Learn more about the split IRA concept and how to safeguard more of your money by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. It is estimated that each day over 10,000 people will turn 65, which means a lot of advisors selling a lot of annuities. Don't get stuck in the wrong annuity. Get a second opinion from TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and we're talking about that Yogi Berra quote, when you come to a fork in the road, take it, which that doesn't seem of much help, and that's kind of like the financial world. I think, folks, you may understand this. You've probably seen this, especially if you're over the age of 55. You're probably wondering why everybody, complete strangers, are wanting to buy you steak dinners, or everybody's reaching out to you, or why there's so many people on radio and TV talking about retirement planning. That's because they know, especially if you're a saver, that you're probably scared to death of this notion of retirement, and you, in particular, really don't know what to do with the 401k and where to invest it, and they're going to want to help you. Now, here's the problem. Some of these retirement guides, as I've seen it, many of them don't understand the retirement landscape. They're not set up to handle it, and the problem is with a insurance license or a securities license, they can act like a guide pretty quick. What was that story you were telling me about, Derek? I want to get to Aaron in a second, but what was that story about the Spanish fellow that hired the guide and got robbed? What was that one about?
That was The Alchemist.
Okay, yeah. Tell me that story real quick, because this is a good story. Go ahead.
Yeah, so a young boy chooses to be a sheep shepherd, and he's kind of content with that.
Well, that was probably one of his problems anyway.
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
ahead. Back to choices. Go ahead.
So he falls asleep in a church, and he has a dream about a treasure in Egypt where the pyramids are. And these different mentors show up in his life and say, you have to go and try that, man. So he sells his sheep and he gets some money, and he makes it about 2 hours out of home, and he finds a tour guide to take him to Egypt. And he's the only other guy he's met that speaks Spanish in this land that he's in, so he trusts him, and the guy immediately robs him. And the kid's kind of left there with no money, no sheep, so he has no equity, basically. And he's trying to find a way to get home, and he whines, and he's, like, well, this just proves that, you can't trust people and that dreams are stupid and all that. And he decides to take the attitude of like, no, actually, I set out to explore the world, and I made it farther than most shepherds do, And from there, he kind of continues on. He finds a way to still make it.
Still pursue his dream. And I think that's it. Many of you folks may feel like, and I know because you come in and tell me, maybe you feel like you haven't saved enough, or you feel like you're comparing yourself to the fellow next door that you think maybe has more money than they really have, or maybe you've made some financial mistakes, or given your money to somebody you feel maybe has either robbed you blind or not there to help serve your needs. It's never too late to get a second opinion, to let us see how we might be able to help you. So I would encourage you to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com if you'd like a second opinion on your retirement, or before you retire, or before you take that fork in the road and you're not really sure which direction to take. Okay, so Aaron, at the break, I said, real quick, Aaron, have you got any fork in the road stories? And you said, actually, I do, Tony. Share your fork in the road story.
Yeah, Tony. So I graduated college in 2004 and was substitute teaching for a little while, but that wasn't really steady income. And in the early 2000s, the job market was just pretty low. There just weren't a lot of jobs out there. So I continued to substitute teach for a little while, and then finally through a temp agency, I found a job at a trucking company as a gas station attendant. And that's what I did for a few months. The trucking company came to me and they said, we know you're hired through the temp agency, so we would like to hire you full time. So that to me was considered a fork in the road. I had to really kind of make a decision. Here I was, just out of college, newly married.
Now, were you thinking about you might go with the trucking company?
Yeah, I might go with the trucking company.
Were you, wait a minute, let's stop. So were you kind of nervous that if you didn't take that job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know, okay, do I want to go down this path? Do I want to, because I probably could have moved up in the trucking company. I think I could have, but did I want to do that or did I want to stick with substitute teaching again until I found something more permanent? Anyway, so I asked the trucking company, I said, please give me a day or two to think about it. And that night I'm online looking at jobs, and 2-3 o'clock in the morning, lo and behold, I find this position online for a part-time prompter operator at Wave 3 Television. And I just think to myself, all right, I'm going to apply. I'm going to see what they say, and I'm going to go from there. Well, they called me. I interviewed. They liked me. They wanted to hire me. And I told the trucking company, thank you, but I'm going to go down this path. And, this was part-time work. This was not full-time work.
And I know
like
what they pay prompter operators, too.
Yeah,
Probably wasn't a lot of money.
It wasn't a lot of money. It was part-time work, which, even less money. But, I worked there for a few months, and after a few months of busting my tail, I made it to full-time. And, here we are 14, 15 years later.
And I think the cool storyline there is really, that's how we met, because I was on TV for 7 years, so it allowed me to meet you, and now you're here helping me. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
So you may be sitting there thinking about that same thing as Aaron reminds us, even your work, even your decision to retire. Maybe some of you are a little nervous about what's going on. We're in the middle of this COVID stuff. There's been a lot of layoffs, a lot of people working from home. They're not sure if they want to go back, if they're going to go back. So I'm kind of almost envisioning this fork in the road experience that people could be going through. It's kind of thrust upon them too. So I think, Derek, as we think about some of these situations with people and these storylines, it's almost forcing people to make some decisions, isn't it? That inner cave experience is coming on them whether they like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people underestimate just how difficult of a choice hope is, because hope comes with responsibility. So.
Yeah, and I think, that's the thing. What we provide at Worry-Free Retirement, it's a process, folks. Let me kind of walk you through our process and why this proprietary system I've come up with is so unique to the financial world. And I think, first of all, let's talk about a few key components of a guide. Even Gina, she sent me this. Let me see if I can call this up. This was actually pretty cool. Gina took it upon herself to send this. The advantages of having a guide. So let's imagine like this one fellow that took off to Africa, right? He found a guide, but you want a guide if you're in a foreign area that's knowledgeable of the area, right? That'd be one of the attributes of a guide. I like this, ability to communicate effectively. So in your storyline, the guy chose somebody in Africa because he happened to speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. Most people didn't, right? So he spoke the same language, which built some trust. So you got to trust him. A lot of them, I thought this was interesting, have charismatic personalities. Now, folks in the financial world, and please, if you're an advisor, listen to this, take this as a compliment. Many financial advisors are very good speakers. They can be very charismatic. They can be very friendly, okay? Builds that trust up, right? Could be good or bad. Many of them are engaging storytellers. Some of them are good actors. That's the example of a guide. Maybe 6 biggest reasons, disadvantages of a guide. Sometimes a guide can hurt you, right? A guide might say, no, we shouldn't go down that way. I want to go this way. No, we can't do that, So a guide can also be inflexible. They might be limited. Sometimes guides, like we're pretty much unlimited. We can do about any product somebody needs. We can sell annuities. We can provide life insurance, long-term care insurance. We have our Charles Schwab platform. We are independent. So unlike some financial guides that work for companies, they can't give you certain information. They can't sell you certain products. So at Tony Walker Financial, we have a lot of the flexibility built into what we do to help you in that journey should you decide to change courses, should you decide to take another path. So folks, if you're sitting there thinking about a financial guide, when I come back, I'm going to share a story of a widow who has been a client of mine for years, who came in recently, and it was one of the most rewarding conversations I've had with somebody. And also, I think for you, many of you think you have to have all of this money. You've been told you've got to have millions of dollars. I think it's going to be a real encouragement to help you understand, what is this money for? What journey are you really on? And what is the purpose of money when you come kind of to the end game? Because as we said, the joy is in the journey. And many of you are waiting way too long to enjoy your money and also to spread that good joy to other people. I'm going to explain what I'm talking about when I come back. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. I am Tony Walker. I'll be right back.
Call me old-fashioned, but I love the fact that my husband takes care of all the finances. But if something happened to him, where would I turn?
The grief associated with losing a spouse is hard enough. Don't make matters worse by not having a written game plan.
Don't leave your future to chance. Get a game plan now with one of the most experienced and trusted names in the business. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Dun, 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 dun,
Tony.
What are you looking at me so funny for, Aaron?
What are you-
Star Wars.
That's Rise of the Valkyries. I believe.
Oh, that's not Star Wars? Oh, okay, sorry. So,
No.
see, I don't know much about Star Wars. Sorry about that, folks. I blew the intro. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am Tony Walker, and obviously I know less about Star Wars, but I do know about the financial journey a lot of savers go through. Recently in my book that I published, Don't Follow the Herd, a bestseller on Amazon, I think the reason people have enjoyed that book is it starts off talking about my journey as a youngster. And one of the attributes of savers, actually one of the attributes of heroes in any kind of book, and Joseph Campbell talks about this. Joseph Campbell noticed that many heroes come from very humble beginnings. So remember, folks, and this is a word of encouragement to you, many of you feel like you have not stockpiled enough money. You've been listening to the wrong financial advisors, the wrong financial guides. Remember, the journey is where the joy is. And if you've been able to, provide for your family, you've been able to make a good living, you've been able to enjoy some of that journey along the way, I mean, hey, you're a financial hero. Don't expect so much of this destination because, retirement can be a tough deal. And when you get into retirement, many people wait too long to enjoy the money. So what I'm going to do is share with you, I'm going to change the names and the amounts of money and everything to protect the innocent. But this was so cool, Aaron and Derek. One of my clients who, again, I'm going to change this up a little bit. And if you're a listening client, again, nobody's going to know it's you, but I'm paying you a compliment when you hear this. So she's 73. She's a widow. Okay, you got this situation. Her husband died several years ago. When you have two people, when you have a husband and wife, what a lot of people don't realize, when one spouse dies, they were both living on their Social Security. So they were making it okay, and they had several $100,000 saved up in their IRAs, had some savings. They'd been saving all their life. They had a couple $100,000 in the bank and CDs and all that. But one of the things they forgot is when one spouse dies, and this is why she came to me several years ago, you lose one of the Social Securities.
Right.
So kind of imagine, and again, I'm changing the names. Hubby was making $2,000 a month at Social Security. She was making $1,500 a month. Well, that's $3,500 a month. Their house was paid for. They've got an IRA. They got savings. They were getting by okay, right? Really not a lot of money problems. He passes away. She loses her Social Security. So keep that in mind, folks. Whoever dies, the lower Social Security drops off. So all of a sudden, may not sound a lot like a lot of money to a millionaire, but all of a sudden to lose $1,500 a month, that's a lot of money, isn't it, Derek? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now she has to live on just hubby's $2,000 a month. So that's why she came to me. She's got all these CDs. She's got a 401k she's never used. I said, let us take care of it. We'll handle it. We invested some of it in our Charles Schwab platform, and we've done pretty well with that, but a lot of it we put in annuities. And the reason I told her I wanted to do annuities is because down the road, first of all, it was protected, but down the road I said, you know what, there may be a point in time where you're going to want what I call mailbox money. So if you're just now joining us and you don't know what mailbox money is, folks, this is the wonderful thing to take with you on any journey. Talking about a wonderful tool. Think about this. As you get older, what we're going to find out with our financial hero I'm describing, you're going to spend less and less. The problem is you're going to worry. Your greatest fears, the greatest fear of all Americans, you're going to worry about one day running out of money. You guys are young guys, but can't you see why somebody'd worry about that?
Absolutely.
73 years old. The thought of living 20 years or whatever, it is a huge fear. So what I told her back then, when we set this annuity up, one day, this is what was cool about this. One day, you're probably going to walk in here. I'm going to bet you've got plenty of money to live on. She said, there's no way. I don't see how that's going to happen. I said, you just watch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be able to kick in this mailbox money, and you can live on that for the rest of your life. And if you don't need it, this was the cool thing. I tell this to all my clients. If you don't need it, we can just take it and give it away. And I can remember back then, like most of my clients, there's no vision of what I'm even talking about. Yeah, whatever, Tony, that's right, whatever. I can't imagine I won't need this money. So here she comes in. I'll call her Miss Jones. So what can I do for you, Miss Jones? This is, by the way, if you work with Tony Walker Financial, you will be working with me and my staff, but there are times when people want to come back in to see me. That's perfectly fine. I'm truly accessible. I love visiting with former clients that have been with us a while that out of the blue they have a change of life, something goes on, and they just want to come in and talk. So I said, well, what can I help you with? And she said, well, Tony, you said years ago that there may be a point in my life where I'm not going to need this money. She said, I didn't believe you, but I don't need it. I said, don't tell me you're able to make it in life on just your Social Security. Now, it's gone up a little bit because of inflation. Remember the 2000?
Right.
She said, that's plenty. Now, in our Schwab account, I went back and looked at her records. Occasionally, we've taken out $5,000, $10,000, but for the most part, she's still got her Schwab account. All the annuities have been growing. See, they have what's called income riders associated with those. And I said, so I threw it back on her. I said, so what are you going to do with all this money? She said, I don't know. And I said, what about giving some of it away now to your kids? Her first response was, they don't need it. I said, what about your grandkids? She said, I'll do it. How do we do this? So it was so cool. And it's so easy to do, folks. If you have an annuity that provides mailbox money, I ran the illustrations. Heather in our Bowling Green office ran it. It's going to pay her about $20,000 a year for the rest of her life. So we're going to take it out, send it to her. She's in a very low tax bracket. She's only going to have to pay about 10% on it, so a couple thousand a year in taxes, very low taxes. She's going to take that $20,000 net of taxes. We're going to deposit it in her checking account. She's got plenty of money still in CDs. And each year, if she doesn't spend it at the end of the year around Christmas, guess what she's going to do with it?
Give it to the grandkids.
Give it to the grandkids. She said, are they going to have to pay any taxes on it? I said, nope. Not a penny. So she's like, this is awesome. Well, what if, Tony, next year I don't want to give them any money? I said, no problem. Just set up a little game with them. Say, hey, every year I got this financial advisor. He's kind of like the Scrooge. He's going to tell me whether I can give you money or not. But the beauty is if she gives it away this year, it's coming right in the back door next year because it's guaranteed for life. So folks, it's just a wonderful story. But folks, if you don't have something like that you can visualize the here and now and also in the future what you're going to do with your money, we would love to talk to you. At Tony Walker Financial, we respect the fact that this is your money, your journey. We just want to be that financial guide to help you along the way, to help you see and kind of crystallize in your mind's eye what is this money really for, and to use and enjoy this money before it's too late. Give us an opportunity. If you're thinking about working with an advisor, thinking about rolling over a 401k, maybe you're wanting to earn some money on the bank that's paying next to nothing, we can help. Log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started button. Your information will be confidentially sent to our offices. I would be happy to personally talk to you by phone or meet with you in person at our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Or give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. We'll look forward to talking to you next week on the Worry-Free Retirement. But between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free.
If you need it. you don't got it, you don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.